Hey, welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and call the Board of County Commissioners legislative session to order for Tuesday, December 6th. And for the record, it is 2:07, and we have all three commissioners present. Commissioner Cooney is joining us by Zoom. Commissioner Cooney, could you acknowledge that you're here with us?
Yes, and thank you for running the meeting. It's a little hard with public hearings to run the meeting on Zoom since I can't see what's going on inside the room. So thank you.
Not a problem, happy to do it. And then we also have Commissioner Kearns and myself, Commissioner French, present in the chamber. So the first item of business is an open public forum. This is for anybody in the audience that would like to provide any testimony on any items that are either on the agenda or not on the agenda, but any other items or other topics. And for those that have called in, you can hit *9 to let me know that you're there, or by Zoom, use the raised hand function. We will ask you, if you wanted to provide any testimony, to fill out one of our yellow slips so that we can keep a record of those that are providing testimony. So I do have a written testimony that was submitted to emails that were received, one from Megan Raymond, and this is on CPA 0222 comment letter, and these items are actually going to be dealt with next week, so we'll include the written testimony as part of the response for those items. And then the other one is from, I think it's Ella Moroshin, and that is also on CPA 04-22. And then Christine Fisk has also submitted a email response to the board. So all of these will be included as part of the record for our actions for next week. So again, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to provide any testimony to the board at this time? Please come forward to the microphone. Second call for anybody wanting to provide any testimony. And again, if you're on the phone, *9, and if you're by Zoom, use the raised hand function. And third and final call for anybody who wants to provide any testimony. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're, I'm here to talk about the dump, the Buttercup dump thing. Is it appropriate that I can talk about that?
That's one of the items on the agenda, so we'll be dealing with that when we get to that in the agenda. So third and final call for anybody in the audience who'd like to provide any testimony. Seeing nobody come forward, I'm going to go and close the testimony for the open public forum, and then that will get us to the consent agenda. And as part of the consent agenda, we do not have any staff presentations, so the chair is open to direction from the board.
All right, Commissioner French, I move to approve items 2A through 2Y on today's December 6th consent agenda.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items 2A through 2Y. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The nays. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. The motion passed unanimously. Then that gets us to a public hearing item, and 3A is in the matter of amending the ordinance adopted under resolution number 08-0569, which imposed the sales and use tax as authorized under RCW 82.14.40480. And to go into the detail on this, we have Ms. Susan Ash to join us. Welcome. Yeah, you can either speak or why don't you do the microphone up there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, good, I have it right here.
So, thanks for the invitation to participate today. Let me just go over this a little bit about where we are and why we're doing this. This just simply amends an ordinance that the county adopted some years ago relative to the Health Sciences and Services Authority, and it extends a 0.02 sales and use tax payable to HSSA that otherwise would have been paid to the State Department of Revenue. It is not a new tax or an increase in tax. The effective date of this is January 1, 2023, and it extends out until January 1, 2038. It codifies the Commissioner's commitment when HSSA approached the state legislature to reauthorize HSSA for a second 15-year authorization, which the legislature did pass in 2019. Next. So HSSA was created, a little background here, to bring much needed revenue to fund health and life sciences research and infrastructure to the county and to support public health. And to date, we've spent nearly $14 million for research by both private and academic entities. HSSA is credited with jumpstarting the growth in this industry and drawing in $50 million of extramural funding, which brings new dollars to our county, to our economy. The estimated total economic impact of HSSA to date is well over $100 million. Our investments via matching grants and funding for public health needs, including early COVID relief funding, new healthcare and dental facilities, programs that support child victims of abuse and domestic violence victims, and so on. That's where the public health dollars have gone. Thank you. Other accomplishments, no state audit findings in 15 years of operation. Yay. Overhead, we have kept under 10% per an agreement arranged with the county and the state. We have successfully brought attention to the significance of health and life sciences to the county and its citizens in research and treatment, economic development, and workforce needs. So some grant investments, a sampling of that for your information. We funded the WSU Spokane Core Laboratories when they were constructed at about $1.5 million. We funded the startup of the WSU Steve Gleason Institute of Neuroscience, about $250,000. We have matched startup funds for about 6 WSU research scientists. We have recently funded a new BSL-1 laboratory for WSU's SP3 Northwest. We funded a piece of equipment at Whitworth. We have funded cleft palate research at Eastern. And we funded a couple $100,000 stage renal care research by Dr. Catherine Tunnell, well known in our community. As a quick example, she has then turned around and received another $2 million of grant funding for that, which is sort of how this whole process works. That's how we bring new dollars into the community. Some other sampling of investments we've made: IASIS Molecular Sciences, Silver Therapeutics to combat infections, their antimicrobial composite urology devices, catheters, and other microbials materials. Allele Diagnostics, many of you know these companies, for their rapid array research for congenital heart disease gene-centric microarray for rapid results. Photon Biosciences out in the valley, fluorescent probe, PBS technology to rapidly detect bacteria and platelets. Quadralinks Inc. is a relatively new grant for its biofeedback system on Parkinson's disease. And in the life sciences arena's Second Sight Bioscience, we funded their research in building construction of a hop stringing machine that eliminates repetitive injuries in agriculture. We established a few years ago some grant writing assistance for entrepreneurs and startup businesses. We want to seed that industry, obviously, and provide professional consultation for them. And these are just small $5,000 grants, but they mean the world to these startup entrepreneurs. And what we do actually is provide the funding for them to hire a professional consultant. We've identified 4 such consultants across the nation who have NIH-type experience.
The initial $50,000 investment went very quickly, so the board established a $500,000 set aside to help in the future, and we're spending that down. And so far, 30 entrepreneurs have been assisted by these grants to date. We have many partnerships, first and foremost with Spokane County. City of Spokane, and that the mayor actually does appoint 3 of our board members, the county 3 and the governor 3. Greater Spokane Inc. Life Sciences Executive Advisory Council, the Evergreen Bioscience Innovation Cluster, Life Science Washington, University District, where I'm off to another meeting on that board soon. Spokane Public Libraries, the Bloomberg Terminal, PatSnap Software, and I forget the third one. Anyway, the Bloomberg Terminal in itself is the only other one from one at the New York City Libraries, and making this library here very, very helpful and well-known, noted for its help for entrepreneurial startup businesses. Spokane Regional Health District, Quality of Life Survey, and of course the university. So these are some of our main partnerships, is all we're letting you know here about. Closing here, our board members, Jason Thaxton, who's the Senior VP and Chief Strategy and Clean Energy Officer for Avista. Daryl DeWald. Dr. DeWald is the Vice President of WSU Health Sciences statewide, and then he is the Chancellor of the Spokane campuses. Allison Glazano is a PhD who has actually conducted research herself in her past, and she's an attorney with Perkins Coie. Alex Jackson, you all know, I'm sure, is the Senior Vice President and CEO of Multicare Inland Northwest Health Systems. Kevin Oldenburg is the PhD CEO President of Second Sight Bioscience. Daryl Podek is a medical doctor who is the head of the University of Washington and Gonzaga Regional Medical Education. Also, Allison Polson, a new board member, Executive Director of Better Health Together. David Vachon, PhD, CEO, founder of IASIS Molecular Sciences, and Francisco Velasquez, the MD and Director of the Spokane Regional Health District. And there's your staff. And important to note, the new staff is Aaron Williams-Hooter, who will assume this position January 1st of 2023 as I retire. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm honored to answer.
Any questions for Ms. Ash? Commissioner Cooney?
Yeah, I would just, as Susan's retiring, I just want to say thank you, Susan, for all your hard work that you've done over the years for this organization. So I just want to say thank you for that, and excited for Aaron. So just wanted to state that.
No one's more excited for retirement than me. Thank you. Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very
So this is a public hearing item, and so if there's anybody in the audience who'd like to provide any testimony on 3A, now would be the time to come forward. So second call for anybody wanting to provide testimony on item 3A. Do we have anybody on Zoom or the phone? So this will be third and final call for anybody wanting to provide testimony on 3A. Seeing nobody come forward, I'm going to close the hearing and I'd like to my fellow commissioners for direction.
Commissioner French, I move to approve item 3A as presented.
I will second that.
Got a motion and a second to approve item 3A as presented. Any discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Let the record reflect the motion passes unanimously. Then moving on to item 3B, we do have a presentation from Ms. Deborah Firkins for staff, starting with item 3B. Ms. Firkins, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Considering the application of Intermountain Infrastructure Group, LLC, for a franchise to construct, operate, and maintain a telecommunications system in, over, along, and under county roads, highways, and rights-of-way in Spokane County, Washington. Intermountain will only be placing their facilities in the streets in red on this map. It'll be underground. If the board has any questions for Intermountain, I believe that Jeff Yount is attending this meeting virtually. Spokane County Public Works Department recommends a telecommunications franchise be granted to Intermountain Infrastructure Group, LLC. Yep. Questions?
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Perkins? Okay. This also is a public hearing item, so I will open up the hearing for anybody in the audience that would like to provide any testimony on hearing item 3B, like in boy. And do we have anybody on Zoom? Again, if you're on Zoom, raise your hand. If you're calling in, it's *9. Second call for anybody wanting to provide testimony on item 3B. Third and final call, seeing nobody come forward, I'll close the hearing on item 3B and look to my fellow commissioners for direction.
Commissioner French, move to approve item 3B, which is to consider the application of Intermountain Infrastructure Group LLC to operate and maintain telecommunications systems in, over, and along and under county roadways and right-of-ways of Spokane County, Washington for Public Works Department.
I will second the motion.
I've got a motion and a second to approve item 3B as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Let the record reflect the motion passed unanimously. Then coming to 3C, like in Charlie. Again, Ms. Perkins, the floor is yours.
Considering declaring surplus assessor's parcel number 35243.0515 through 35243.0523, 35243.0501 through 35243.0504, and 35243.0506, and 35243.0495, and 35243.0496, and 35243.0491, and 35243.0492, located at 12th and Dollar, known as Buttercup Dump. This property is located within the city of Spokane Valley and is zoned R3, which is a residential zoning designation, allowing up to 8 lots per acre. And slides. Whoop, not that one. One for Buttercup. Well, it was part of the package. The original package that was sent by Shauna? No? Okay. Sorry. I guess I don't even have the picture of the property. Well, I'll continue. It is approximately, on the picture you would have seen like 4 city blocks. Spokane County received this site in lieu of a lawsuit under resolution number 96-0542. The property was originally owned by East Spokane Township number 49, which Spokane County was the successor to. The county is approximately 8.44 acres, which contains a dump of approximately 2.42 acres, which has a no further action designation with the Department of Ecology. The appraisal was done by Schweitzer Company, set the value at $695,000, dated August 10th, 2022. The Public Works Department no longer has a use for this property. And we recommend that the Board of County Commissioners surplus these parcels located at 12th and Dollar, known as the Buttercup Dump, from county use. and I wish I had lots of pictures to show you. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Firkins? Okay, so this also is a public hearing, and so we do not have any written comments on this, but I will open it up to anybody in the audience that'd like to provide any testimony on hearing item 3C. And sir, I believe this is the item that you wanted to comment on? Yep, so if you could come to the podium and then before you leave, if you could fill out one of the yellow, God bless you, terrific.
Did you get this?
Yep, share that with the clerk there, so we got you in the record. And so you do have 3 minutes to share your comments.
I will be brief.
Very good.
Okay, first,
Go ahead,
I
sir.
do want to thank Deborah. I've spoken to her on the phone a couple of times. She's delightful and very helpful, and publicly, I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So I live in the, on the east side of that cul-de-sac, right there. And I've lived there for close to 40 years. And when I purchased the property, I was told by the title company that Hazel Street had been vacated as well as 13th Avenue. Hazel Street was pretty easy to determine because it just divides my property with the property to the west of me. 13th Street, I've never quite understood where the property lines were, although I assumed that the property existed somewhere between 14th and 12th, approximately where the new subdivision, which is that large area, is over there, is going in. They plotted a 13th Avenue. I thought that was probably where my property lines were. I have a quick claim deed that says that I own that. I have yet to seek legal counsel on that, but I intend to if the sale goes through. When I purchased that property, the dump was not quite dug up. They were in the process of digging it up, and my understanding was that they were not going to develop that property because of leaching from the dump. I don't know if that's still the case or not, but I raised that concern. I do want to point out just 2 things. One is that there is a number of active springs below my property. One that follows the telephone line, which would be here, and that's a seasonal spring. The other spring is just about 30 feet from my house down the hill, and that is an active spring. It's wet all the time. There's water that flows there. It's wet even in drought conditions. It is a swamp back there. There are times where there's actually running waters back there. It is wet land. The other thing I want to just mention to you is that Hazel Street is a very steep street. Before they put the sewer line in, there was no storm drain, so water would run down the street into my driveway, down an area just to west of my property, right on the property line. They since put in a storm drain, but they put in a drain that has a overflow valve or overstove conduit that runs through my property. And when we get deluge water, it fills up and it runs down there. My point being is that that area should be a floodplain as far as I'm concerned, and I hope that that is taken into consideration on the sale of that property. It is wet and gets wetter. The last thing I just wanted to mention to you is that there's a tremendous amount of wildlife on that property. Deer, raccoon, coyote, moose, snakes, porcupines, skunks. There's just a tremendous amount of wildlife on that area. A development will change the course of that, and it really should be looked into as possibly a wildlife area or parks area. That's pretty much all I need to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. So second call for anybody else that wants to provide any testimony on 3C. Third and final call for anybody wanting to provide testimony on item 3C. Not seeing anybody come forward, not seeing anybody on Zoom or on the phone. I'm going to close the hearing on item 3C and look to my fellow commissioners for direction.
Commissioner French, I move to approve item 3C to consider and declare surplus certain county-owned properties for Spokane County, the assessor parcels that are listed on today's consent agenda and presented by staff.
Thank you.
I will second the motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Let the record reflect the motion passes unanimously. Then to item 3D, like in dog. Again, Ms. Firkins, I believe this is you.
Considering the sale of assessor's parcel number 35243.0515 through 35243.0523, 35243.0501 through 35243.0504, and 35243.0506, and 35243.0495, and 35243.0496, and 35243.0491, and 35243.0492, located at 12th and Dollar, known as Buttercup Dump. This property is located within the city of Spokane Valley and was appraised at $695,000 on August 10th, 2022 by Schweitzer Company and in Company. The property is approximately 8.44 acres, which contains a dump of approximately 2.42 acres, which has a no further action designation with the Department of Ecology. The Public Works Department reached out to the Department of Ecology and notified the department about the possible surplus and sale of the Buttercup property. We were informed that the following requirements must be met by the county to sell the property: supplying the Department of Ecology with new owner contact information. The new owner will be expected to continue annual inspections and comply with the restrictions on redevelopment. If the provisions of the restrictive covenant are not being met, Ecology may require corrective actions and rescind the no further action opinion. We're to post copies of the August 1994 Independent Remedial Action Report for Buttercup Dump. This was provided to the current prospective buyer, and an Ecology website address was posted on our website, which provides copies of said report and other information regarding this property. The county has received an offer from Tampion Enterprises, LLC, and or its assigns in the amount of $695,000. Contingent upon financing, an acceptable title report, a feasibility study, attorney review, and additional inspections of up to 45 days. Notice for this public hearing was authorized by resolution, which adhered to the RCW 36.34.090 and RCW 36.34.100, posting in the county courthouse and posting twice in the public newspapers, with the first posting at least 10 days before this hearing. The Public Works Department also recommends that the offer from Tampion Enterprises, LLC, and or its signs for the $695,000 with its aforementioned contingencies be accepted. It is the county's practice to convey property by quitclaim deed. The board will now take public testimony for and against the advisability of the sale of this property, and will consider whether to accept the written offer by Tampion Enterprises, LLC, and or its assigns for the $695,000 contingent, with all of its contingencies, or any oral offers made at this public hearing. Any oral offers must state any of its contingencies and their closing date attached to their offer. The current offer of $695,000 with the aforementioned contingencies includes a $7,000 earnest money. All offers, written or oral, must be reduced to writing on the required county form. No offer will be considered which contains a real estate commission to be paid by the county. If the board receives any oral offers during this public hearing in an amount greater than the highest written offer, or in this case, the $695,000, then the oral offer must be reduced to writing and submitted on the required county form to Spokane County Engineer's Office by 3:30 p.m. tomorrow to be considered a valid offer. If no additional written or oral offers are received at this public hearing, the board, at its sole discretion, may accept the written offers received. If the highest offer at the public hearing is an oral offer, the board shall continue the matter to the next meeting of the board to make a decision on all the offers presented. If the highest offer is an oral offer and is not reduced to writing, as described above, the board, with the agreement of the next highest oral bid reduced to writing, may accept the next highest bidder's offer. Any offer made today must be turned into Deborah Firkins, me, by 3:30 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Firkins. Any questions for Ms. Firkins? Okay, so here's how we're going to handle this. I'm going to go ahead and open up the hearing, and you can provide testimony with regard to advising the board on whether we should sell the property. After the hearing is closed, then I'm going to ask for any bids on the property. And so if you are in the audience and would like to provide a bid on the property, that's the time to present it to the board. If there are no bids offered up, then the bid that we have from Tampion, the board can take an action on. If there are other oral offers, as Ms. Firkins indicated, you'll have until 3:30 tomorrow afternoon to reduce that offer to writing, and then the board will consider it at our next legislative meeting, which would be next week, Tuesday of next week. So hopefully that's clear for everybody in terms of the next steps that we'll be going through. And so at this point, I will open up the hearing for anybody who would like to provide any testimony on hearing item number 3D, like in Delta. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Or so if you're calling in, *9 will notify us that you want to provide testimony. We do not have anybody on Zoom. So second call for anybody who wants to provide testimony on hearing item 3D, like in Delta. Third, yes. Prior to leaving, we'll ask you to fill out one of the yellow slips too, so we can get you into the record.
Okay,
And the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
so Mike, I just have a couple questions on this. I was here to just listen. But there's 8 acres there, and you can get 8 units per acre. So we're looking at, I could just walk in and subdivide it into 64 lots.
You want me to answer?
Please.
Well, 2.44 of those acres are a dump, so you won't be able to divide that dump area. And there is a deed restriction on all of the property. So in order to be able to divide it up or to sell it off in pieces and stuff, first you've got to deal with the Department of Ecology and be able to get them to agree to what you're planning to do.
Oh, so it really isn't zoned right now to come in and develop it into
Well,
eight
it's
lots per
zoned.
acre?
It's zoned, but you've got to deal with ecology first.
But
Excuse
I'd
me.
have to close it before I could deal with ecology.
Yes, because you wouldn't have standing unless you were the owner of the property to deal with ecology. but you could
So
talk
really,
to them
the
first.
zoning is totally up in the air right now. You say it's worth 8
Well,
lots
it's
per acre, but it's really
zoned that
not.
right now.
Right. So I couldn't come in and just subdivide it. You have in there that you have to deal with ecology first,
Yeah, because there's a dump.
but only on 2.4 acres.
You're right. And
And-
so the rest.
And just to be clear, sir, we can't provide any specific information about how you would go about developing the
I
property?
understand how to do
Okay,
that.
I just wanted to make sure that
But I
was
just
clear.
was wondering if I could just walk in here and break that into 64 lots. That was my question as I stand here today.
I think you need to speak to an attorney about that, or look at
When I'm speaking to
the,
you, it says attorney right there.
I'm not your attorney, though, unfortunately, but thank you.
Well, you said attorney, so I just said, thank you.
Yep, you bet. Thank you.
So actually, it's not really 8 lots per acre as we sit here today. You have to go through, it's kind of a pie in the sky because you have to go through ecology first.
It's zoned that way, but
As I
if you
sit
had
here
a
today.
lake within the middle of a piece of property and it was zoned, 8 lots per acre, if the lake was sitting there, you couldn't put a house in the middle of a lake.
I understand that. I understand that. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Can
you.
you fill this out? Thank you.
Okay, so third and final call for anybody else that would like to provide any testimony on hearing item 3D Lycan Delta. Seeing nobody else come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing. And then I'm going to ask for, does anybody in the audience want to provide an oral bid on properties identified as 3D wait a minute, before we do that, we got to take a vote on surplusing selling the property. So I will, yeah. So we've had the oral testimony, I've closed the record, so looking for direction on 3D.
Yeah, Commissioner French, I move that we adopt item 3D and consider the sale of county-owned property and the assessor parcel numbers listed on today's agenda and presented by staff.
I will second that.
So I've got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Let the record reflect the motion passed unanimously. Now, I will open up for anybody in the audience that would like to provide an offer on the property identified as 3D. So second call for anybody wanting to provide an offer on the property identified as 3D. Third and final call. Seeing nobody come forward, then the offer that we have on the property is from Tampion in the amount of $695,000. And so at this point then, staff is authorized to move forward with closing of that transaction.
Commissioner French, I moved that we accept the offer in the amount of $695,000 as presented by Deborah Firkins and all contingencies and requirements that she laid out in her presentation.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion and a second to authorize the sale of the property to Tampion as presented. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Let the record reflect the motion passed unanimously. That then completes all of the items coming before the board in this afternoon session. Commissioner Cooney, do we have your permission to use your stamp on the documents for today?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. And so, Mr. Simmons, do we have any miscellaneous items or any other business to come before the board?
We have nothing for the regular session. That can end, and then we have a continuation of yesterday's meeting with Mike Burgess to discuss some of the BOCC's legislative agenda.
Okay. And then anything from legal?
No, thank you. No, we'll pass our executive session to next week.
Okay. And the session with Mr. Burgess, can we do that in this chamber, or do you want to move over to the other
Happy to do it here if it's easier
Okay.
since you're already here.
And
And
then,
Mike is online too.
and Mike has a hard stop by 3, so for the sake of time, why don't we just go ahead and deal with that here? And then I've also been advised that we need to establish a special meeting for the Board of Health for next December 12th or 13th for 2:30 to 3:30. And so I guess I'm asking for the board to look at their calendar and see what works for, again, either December 12th to the 13th from 2:30 to 3:30. Commissioner Cooney.
So on the 12th, what are the times again? I apologize.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What are the times that you're looking for on the 12th?
So the request was from 2:30 or 3:30.
The 12th would be better for me as I will be traveling on the 13th.
Okay,
Yeah, I think Monday's probably going to work best for us because I would think being being the final consent agenda of the year, it's probably going to be pretty long. I doubt we'd be done by 2:30 and over to the health board in a half hour. So I'm fine with Monday. Works for me.
so Monday at 3:30 or 2:30? Either one, whatever fits your schedules better.
I would just say 2:30 and I don't know what our schedule is for Monday afternoon, but we could probably get it.
Okay. We'll go ahead and schedule it for 2:30 on Monday, December 12th. Okay? We got consensus on that one then? All right.
Yes.
Then, that completes all of the business on our legislative agenda. And so for those that want to return to their desk because they're anxious to get back to work, this would be the time to do that. And we will continue our meeting to deal with our legislative agenda. And so who's going to lead out on this? Yes, Ms. Cooney.
So Commissioner French, so I do have a 3 o'clock hard deadline with the public defender interviews.
Well,
So,
is it possible, Mr. Burgess, to kick this to Monday?
I can. Yeah, I should be able to. I think though, commissioners, there's not a lot of change from what we had previously if you want to try to get through by 3, because I have a 3 also, Commissioner Cuny. If obviously that's your call.
yep, no, I think let's go ahead.
So turn it over to you, Mike, and let's get as far as
Okay.
we can. And
Yeah.
if we can't finish it up, we'll kick it to Monday to finish it.
Okay, so this is going to reflect, the things that we talked about a couple, 3 weeks ago. You all had given me some notes on some things to change, additions, subtractions, and whatnot. If you can go, whoever's controlling, go to the first page of it, and I'll run through just each item very quickly. If you have a copy in front of you also. We've had the same notation about just general observations about the operating budget, county fiscal health, the Blake decision, and the Growth Management Act. There was one item that you added with me when it came to the GMA, and that was supporting legislation from Cheney and Medical Lake allowing urban growth area swaps. So I added that notation. So that's new from what you'd seen before. Held in place the notation about natural gas prohibition legislation, the energy code, or the public energy building energy standards, and then vehicular pursuit also stayed. Going to the next page, we had the WASAC legislative priorities, and you might remember there were 4 of them there, and one of them dealt with the kind of the rural tax credit. I pulled that one off, given that it's not germane to you all, but kept the 3 about federal transportation fund exchange program, adoption of a behavioral health advocacy standards, and then the county jail costs. So those 3 items stayed. And then on the capital budget requests, I had a note about the minor league baseball stadium fund, so I expanded on what that is. The $25 million state fund, specific breakout, the proposal is $5.8 million for Spokane County. I also kept there the roof for the fairgrounds, and then the state support for Fairchild Air Force Base mobile home mitigation. So whoever's got control, we're on the second page now. There you go. And then transitioning to the transportation request, Matt Zarakor, I hope I'm saying his name right, gave me a narrative for these different projects to include. Those will be new to you. Remember when we talked last time, I did not have updated requests to make. Matt gave me more detail on all of these. I cut a decent amount out just to keep it more condensed. So again, the changes were the GMA, addition of the GMA note there on the UGA swaps, striking off the one piece on the WASAC agenda. Not that you don't support that, just not a Spokane County priority. And then the capital budget notations, and then the transportation requests. That's what's new. And at this point, what we've done in the past is we're still, efforting to nail down some days to present, offer the delegation a couple days, a couple options, timeframes before session starts. And then traditionally, we've also just taken this agenda and turned it into a letter from you all that I've distributed once the session has begun with the delegation, or we send it out as a follow-up to a meeting if they did attend. So from a process standpoint, that's what I'd like to do with this. If you want to approve it today, if you do want to come back Monday, I understand, because you're getting close on time and I don't want to jam you at all.
Okay, any comments on the changes that Mr. Burgess has presented?
Maybe somebody can remember but I believe we had a discussion about possibly under capital budget requests, adding something about covering some of the costs that the health district had asked for their building that wasn't covered through ARP funding. Am I remember that incorrect? Okay. Did you receive that? I think, so Jeff, did you send that info to Mike? Okay. Yeah, so did you receive that, Mike?
I don't have, not on the health district. And if I missed it, then that's on me.
Okay.
But we can certainly add that. That's certainly
Yeah,
in your purview.
it would just be one bullet point. There were a number of things that they had put in for an ARP request, but there was only so much funding in that category. So we were able to do a partial funding of it, but there were a few other items as far as updating the building that weren't covered. So we were thinking of asking the state to, if there's a possibility for them to pick up some of that.
Yeah, if Jeff wants to send me, a sentence about that, we'll certainly add that if that's the will of you, the three of you.
All right, we're getting a thumbs up from Jeff. He'll shoot you another bullet point to go into the capital budget request category.
Okay, and then as far as the transportation projects, do you feel like you need some more time to digest these? I assume you're familiar with all of these, but.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Cooney, any comments or suggestions? Is this hitting for you?
Yep, this is fine.
Okay. Mr. Simmons?
I think the board had also perhaps raised the new regional emergency communications center facility as a potential request to the legislature, and I believe the number that was discussed was around 10 million. That was another item that I recall.
Okay.
And if the board is interested, I know Scott Chesney has something regarding the Growth Management Act recent ruling that was received regarding capital facilities plan that probably would be good to consider as well.
Yeah, I thought we had already taken an action to authorize you to proceed with the legislature to get a fix on that, so, yeah, so.
Commissioner French, that's true, and we have pursued that. We have been able to get that item onto the American Planning Association Washington chapter's legislative agenda. We would like to, with your blessing, work with our colleagues at WASAC. If Chair Cooney wants to do that, or we can work directly with Paul, get it on the WASAC agenda, because this is an item that affects every county in the state. It's a much more broad item than just Spokane County, but it fixes those flaws in the capital facilities plan process that are in or inferred in GMA.
Commissioner Cooney, how would you like to address this? You want to do it through your
So
leadership?
So I would have, I can certainly let Eric know, but I would, Scott, have you go through Paul, because it still has to go through the legislative committee. Just, as you know, Commissioner French, WASAC just doesn't make the changes without it going through the legislative committee.
Right. So between Commissioner Cooney and myself, we can certainly carry that message forward.
Very good.
When commissioners too, it sounds like what Scott is saying, it's going to end up being legislation. We'll certainly bring that to you all once session begins, and you can have your support for it at that point as well. Just because it's not on your agenda now doesn't mean you can't support it later, certainly.
No, correct. So I would still have Scott reach out to Paul to
Yeah.
make sure he has all the.
You're talking Paul Jewell then, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I'll call Paul about this too.
Okay, and then if you could get me the specifics as well, and I'll just mention it to Eric while I'm here with him.
Okay. Then at this point then, if I can get the two narratives about the health district funding and then the communications facility, are you comfortable if we just add those two? Or but maybe from a process standpoint, do you need to see a final document? I'm not sure quite how you handle that, sorry.
Yeah, I'm fine with you just adding it. Jeff can provide you the language and stuff, but yeah, just move forward and get it taken care. Are you okay with that, Commissioner Cooney? Would you be agreeable to that?
Yes, no, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay, well then between Jeff and I, how about we get that cleaned up and finalized, and then we'll turn it into a letter, and then we'll continue to work with you all on getting scheduling for a meeting with the delegation pre-session.
Very good.
Very good.
All righty, commissioners, if anything changes, you do not want to talk Monday or next week, obviously you can get a hold of me anytime.
Okay. So I know Commissioner Cooney is pushing a hard three stop, so I'm going to be respectful of that. Anything else anybody else has? Looks like we're good, right?
Thanks, commissioners.
Okay. With that then, it's now 2:59.
Scott had mentioned that some numbers were crunched based on the bonding numbers, bonding capacities on detention facility if we went out to 30 years.
Yes, we have, Randy Bischoff has revised some figures for kind of a continued discussion from yesterday. The commissioners had asked the team to go back and look at not only what would debt service be required, or what would it look like if we went from 20 years to 30 years for issuing a bond, as well as building in what some incremental growth might look like for sales taxes in the out years. So again, just a continued sharing from yesterday. It's some updates that the board had requested.
So Scott, I do have to jump off, so if you could please get those numbers to me, I would appreciate that. And
Will do.
I'll let you guys do the presentation. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Ron, you can go to the next slide.
Well, I think Commissioner, so do we want to go ahead and go through the presentation? Because I know that Commissioner Cooney had to drop off.
Yes, and she asked for the slides to be sent to her
Okay.
after the fact.
All right, then, Mr. Bischoff, the floor is yours.
All right, so what we did is, if you were to implement a 0.1% sales tax, the first year we would collect that would be 2024. And so what we did is we seasoned the numbers using this year, using a 3.9% growth rate. And so the expected collections in 2024 would be just over $9 million. We used that as our base number to calculate the debt capacity based on a 30-year loan at 5.5% with biannual payments. That gives us the debt capacity of $132 million to bond in 2024, with payments starting in 25 for 30 years. You are just seeing the first 11 years here. In 25, we would expect about $9.4 million in sales tax revenue, which is $352,000 over what we need for debt capacity. So that would be extra money coming in for that sales tax that could be used for other law and justice spending. The second year in 26, we would expect an additional $718,000 of surplus, and going on down. We do have this projected out for all 30 years. Again, this is based on a straight 3.9% increase for 20 years. The next slide, Ron, does the same thing. It's same format, but just again going to a 0.2% public safety additional tax. And again, this is the county portion only. That would support debt of $264 million based on an annual payment of just over $18 million. And as you can see, the excess tax revenue in 25 would be about $700,000, about 1.4 in 26, and 2.2 in 27. Any questions?
Any questions, Commissioner Kearns?
Can you remind me, what was the, or I guess this would be Mike, what were you had two costs as sort of ballpark figures for two different types of facilities and beds. What were they?
So the first iteration we looked at for 2021 was 134, I believe, and then
Sorry. And so, okay, so you said 130?
34, and then the second one was,
Well, so I guess, and so Randy, what did you say the 1% brought in?
134.
Oh, it brought in,
and then
okay.
the second one was for the 2014 escalated, and it was 315 or 14 million.
Okay, and the 2% brings in?
It will support debt of 264
Okay, so
with
not-
using extra sales tax
Okay.
for other purposes, not applying it to debt.
Okay,
But for the commissioners, we haven't designed what the new system is exactly going to be in the bed ratios. So I anticipate that we'd probably be somewhere in between those numbers, so, but it's too soon for us to tell. So. And so what I intend to do is get back to you in January with a detailed plan on what we're going to be doing this year and moving forward on our steps for at least planning and developing the plan for it.
but would your opinion be that we would need the 2/10 to build what we need?
I would anticipate we're going to need the 2/10.
Okay, 1/10, it brings in a lot of money, but it's probably not going to be enough to build something that our community
I don't think it
needs.
allows us the flexibility to design the system the way we need to.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay,
Well, and the other thing it might put at risk is some of the elements that we'd want to see if we were trying to make an actual improvement to the system
Correct.
as opposed to just building a jail. So
Correct, yeah.
that would be the items that would be at risk.
Mhm.
Okay? Very good.
well, I'll throw something, I wish all three of us were still on the call right now. But, I mean, I talked to a lot of people over this last year, and I heard a lot of folks saying that they understand the issues we're facing in the criminal justice system. They understand that, a lot of it is centered around a detention facility, services that are offered there, size of facility that is there. And so, I'll go out on a limb here, and I say I think it's, I think we've spent enough time over a decade kind of kicking this political football back and forth, and I think it's about time that we make a decision to put this forward to the voters and let their voices be heard on whether we build a new jail or not. And so I'll just add, I don't know if the support's there, but I'd say let's direct staff to draft something up and put this on a ballot next year.
So would it be your desire to bring that forward for the board to vote on next week then?
Yeah, I'd be open to that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I believe that, like, as stated yesterday, this can only go on an August or a November ballot. November ballot usually has a larger turnout, well, always has a larger turnout, so I would recommend putting it on the next November ballot and letting the voters of Spokane County tell us the direction they want us to go.
Okay? And I would support that. Let's move the ball and give the voters an opportunity to weigh in on this. I likewise, on the campaign trail, heard from a large number of folks that were saying, concerned about not only public safety, but, why are we putting criminals back on the street? And when I try and explain to them, it's because we got no room in the inn, and we've got to pick and choose who can stay in the jail. Well, that doesn't necessarily make them feel comfortable. It means that we are in this perpetual cycle of putting people that we would like to be locked up and keeping our community safe. We're putting them back out on the street. So I think it's time to give the voters the opportunity to weigh in on this conversation and say yay or nay. And so, yeah, let's tee it up for next week. Yes, Mr. Simmons.
Just a couple of additional points on the deck here that Randy put together. This is only the 60% portion of what the county would be receiving. It does, just for reflection, there is an exclusion on motor vehicle sales that the county doesn't collect, the DOR doesn't collect on public safety. It's a specific exclusion, so that's reflected in here. And part of what the commissioners had offered up yesterday as some questions around what does the future of the ability to invest in additional needs in law and justice, as Randy mentioned, this approach, and it's only an approach, it's not the approach, would still give some of the incremental growth capacity into those out years for investing in those needs as they arise. And you can see it grows fairly substantially in the 11 years that's presented here. And while we kind of backed into what a 1/10 and a 2/10 could support from a facility based on debt service, it gives a range of facility costs that if this does go on the ballot and the community passes it, we'd be doing some work in advance of that to really be able to size a facility that can meet those needs. And also the feedback that the commissioners gave us yesterday is make sure we're looking out 30 years on this as well as the county continues to grow and needs for our detention services are adjusting to reflect that.
Well, and I think the other thing it will do is it will give us an opportunity to reach out to our municipal partners to, clarify, are they going to be willing to contribute all or part of their 60% to this initiative, 40% to this initiative, and, are they also going to be partners with us in trying to keep the community safe? Because without the jail, and without there being room in the jail that we have right now, we're putting criminals back on the street. We got to put an end to that. The only way to put an end to that is to get more capacity. So, and that does not eliminate, and I really appreciate Mr. Sparber's observation. This is not about building a new jail. This is about making an investment in the criminal justice system because it also includes community corrections. It also includes transition facilities. It includes all those other elements so that, much like we did with the mental health crisis stabilization facility, those people that we don't want to have in jail because they need to get treatment, we agree. We want to put them into a position to where they can get treatment, get the care they need, and not be in the jail. But again, for those that should be in jail that we want to protect the public from, we need a facility to put them in. So, very good.
Thank you.
So we will work on developing a resolution for next week for the board's consideration.
Very good. Anything else to come before the board for discussion? All right, that completes all the items. It is now 3:12, and we are adjourned for the day. Thank you, everybody.